All right.
Yeah.
It's Troy Ferguson. That's Ferguson. I'm the lieutenant assigned to school safety with the Pasco Sheriff's Office.
If you could start off telling us what you know about this incident.
This afternoon, our SRO that's assigned over at Thomas Waitman Middle School was in the cafeteria assisting with lunch duty. It was at 12:40 hours roughly, and while he was in the cafeteria, his holstered weapon unintentionally discharged while it was in the holster, and it struck a brick wall and a tile floor behind the officer. We are very fortunate that there was no children, staff, nor the SRO injured in the incident. It struck, as I said, a brick wall and tile floor. We've immediately went into investigative mode to find out what would have precipitated the firearm to go off in the cafeteria. And as always with these types of investigations, there'll be an open internal investigation to determine what, if anything, happened with the firearm, with the officer's actions. And he has been reassigned from Waitman Middle School as the SRO as normal standard protocol during one of these types of investigations.
Is there a chance that this officer did nothing wrong and it was actually the weapon that malfunctioned? Is that a possibility?
It is a possibility. We have expert armorers that are going to break that weapon down and take a look at it to find out what happened to cause that weapon to discharge.
When something like this happens, what are the first things that you look at? Like what could possibly cause something like that?
Well, the first thing we do is make sure no one is injured. We're looking around at students, staff, and the SRO himself. But there are a number of safety features on the threat level 3A holsters that we carry with our firearms. So there are a number of dynamic factors involved with fine motor skill functions that would cause that to happen. So we have to really kind of dissect that. And we have a group of expert detectives looking into that now to find out, what, if anything, happened.
Specifically, what type of firearm was this?
It is a 6 Sauer 9mm.
When you said that the deputy was helping with lunch duty, were there students actually in the cafeteria at the time? Or?
He was in the lunch feeding line, so if you can envision students picking up their trays and moving along the line, he would have had students passing in front of him a few feet to the front and 5 or 6 feet down to the right, and he was actually leaning up against a wall, and so when the firearm discharged, still in the holster, it discharged down to the floor and into a brick wall behind him.
Do you know what the reaction was with students? I mean, a gun going off in a crowded cafeteria, is that the accurate?
The cafeteria where he was at was kind of separate from the crowded area. He was in a kind of an isolated serving area, so it was a single file line of students. And then the actual mass of the crowds was out in the open cafeteria. And so we're still trying to review reactions from the students by looking at footage from the cafeteria. So there wasn't a large panicked reaction as you might anticipate. In fact, it was quite the opposite, exactly.
If it turned out the deputy didn't have his safety on, is he facing any criminal charges for this?
I'm sorry.
If he didn't have his safety on, would he be charged?
Well, the weapons are not carried with a safety mechanism per se. They're carried ready to use. So to prove a criminal, they would have to prove negligence, and we're way early, way preliminary in the process to even talk about going that direction. The firearm was holstered. It was holstered when it was discharged, and it was holstered whenever it was recovered from the deputy.
I know there are certain types of weapons that have had similar instances in the past. Do you know if this particular type of gun has had any previous problems that are known to law enforcement?
Yeah, I couldn't really comment specifically about that. I'm not really sure without doing some record checking and research on that.
Are those firearms, the firearms that all the deputies carry, especially the SROs, are they always chambered, or in this case was this like a isolated incident, or can you just explain to us if they're always chambered and loaded, or how they usually carry those?
All law enforcement officers' weapons, at least with the sheriff's office and most agencies, are carried ready to use. So the weapons are fully loaded, armed, and round is chambered in case of an emergent situation.
Can you tell us how long that SRO had been with that school?
It's several years. I need to fact check that and get back to you. I'm not sure how many years he's been at that school just yet, but it's been a few years. I can find that out for you though.
And there was a single shot fired?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
I believe it was captured on video, just for moments, or you're looking
We're looking into that now.
And then kids went back to class,
Yep.
just like normal. I mean,
Yep.
you guys shut it down, I'm sure. They finished their lunches.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they were on top of it very, very quickly.
Do SROs in any case ever wear body cameras, and did this officer have any type of camera that was?
He did have a body camera. The body camera faces away from the officer's body. And in this particular case, the body camera wasn't activated because he was just standing in a lunch line, wasn't really having any interaction with students.
Right. So in other words, it was not on or recording.
No, no. But we're checking all the possible opportunities for any type of surveillance that exists in the cafeterias, because we will do a full and transparent investigation into what happened.
Damage to the school in terms of broken tiles or anything like that? I imagine that's
There's some damage to the facade of the brick wall and in the tile floor right behind where the officer was standing, where the deputy was standing.
How lucky are we that nobody was hit?
Well, I think that we're extraordinarily lucky. This was a very unfortunate circumstance. We're very fortunate that the round struck a tile, piece of floor, and some brick. Absolutely, we're very, very fortunate.
Now, to me, and I don't know a lot about guns, but the common reaction is, how in the world does a gun discharge when it's in your holster? How would that happen?
That's exactly what we like to know ourselves, and that's why we're conducting a very thorough investigation to find out exactly what happened that would cause a weapon in the holster to discharge around.
Is there any message you'd like to send out to parents who may, obviously they're breathing a sigh of relief this afternoon,
Absolutely.
and I think they realize this was not anything intentional on the SRO's part, who probably cares very deeply about these kids, but is there a message that you want to send out to parents?
The message clearly is that the Pasco Sheriff's Office cares very deeply about our community's children, and we are very careful about who we select to be a school resource officer. And this is an unfortunate circumstance, but you can guarantee that the Sheriff's Office will act with a sense of urgency with this investigation. We will be thorough with detail and transparent with the outcome of the investigation.
I know it's preliminary, but the deputy must have been startled. Did he say anything you can tell us about how?
The deputy was very distraught and felt horrible that this situation has occurred. I mean, he was visibly bothered by the circumstances, and as we said, we have reassigned him temporarily, which is a matter of routine in a case like this for the investigation to play out.
When you say reassigned, is he not at another school, or he's something?
Yeah, he's been temporarily reassigned out of school resource officer duty for the time being, while the investigation is ongoing.
How long do you think an investigation like this might last? I know you said you're going to do it with urgency, but
Hours, couple days, maybe a week. It really depends on what evidence is out there, what if any video footage we can dissect and look at in detail. But certainly, as soon as we have a conclusion, we'll be able to share that.
You've been around law enforcement a while. You've been in law enforcement. How common, or have you ever heard of a gun going off in a holster?
It's very rare. It's very rare. I can think of a couple occasions, maybe, but I would be wagering a guess as to the circumstances when and where. But it has happened, but there's usually an explanation, and that's what we're in search of.
Do all deputies carry the same gun, same style gun?
Same gun, same holster, and same duty gear.
Will you guys look into all guns? Because if it happened to this guy's gun, it could happen to yours as you're standing there talking to us.
Our armor and training division always looks at every one of those things you just mentioned anytime there's a discharge of a firearm. We want to make sure that the weapons that we carry and the way that we carry them is safe both for the officer and the community.
will the gun manufacturer be involved with this in any way, do you think?
I don't know. It depends on what the armorer finds.
Any additional questions? Alrighty, that'll be
All
it,
right.
guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely.